Muy buenos días a todas las personas que ocupan este auditorio. Para iniciar nuestros trabajos académicos, recibiremos a la maestra Lachenmayr, que presentará la conferencia Experiencias en el desarrollo de estrategias de automanejo en personas con condiciones crónicas. Para hacer la presentación de la reseña y el currículum de la maestra Lachenmayr, invitamos a la doctora Isabel Peñarrieta de Córdoba. Buenos días y empezamos.
Buenos días, tengo el honor de poder presentar a la doctora Lachenmayr. Es una persona, me pidió que sea muy breve y voy a resaltar lo más importante como una trabajadora comunitaria y se ha desempeñado durante su carrera coordinando y dirigiendo programas en relación a personas para mejorar su calidad de vida, en personas con condiciones crónicas y en personas con adultos mayores, en diferentes partes de Estados Unidos y dirigiendo varios centros de investigación en relación con esto. Entonces tengo el honor también de decir que es una persona que ha desarrollado con mucha experiencia el programa de automanejo de Stanford. Ella es Master Training, que es una calificación del programa de Stanford de tomando control de su salud en español y en inglés, que también se desarrolla en varios idiomas, para formar líderes que puedan implementar este programa. Aspecto que nuestro proyecto está desarrollando también en 2 países, México y Perú. Para nosotros realmente es un honor poder contar con su colaboración y su participación en este evento y quisiera que la recibamos con un gran aplauso.
Gracias, Dr. Isabel. And buenos dias. I am so thankful to be here with you today, and I apologize that I don't speak your language. Yes, I will need this. No, let me go back. Yes. So as I start, I wanted to talk to you. We're going to be talking about the work that we do with the Stanford Self-Management Program in the United States, and also some of the efforts that are occurring through the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO. So I'm curious, how many of you know about the Stanford Self-Management Chronic Disease Program? Not so many. Okay, so I'll be sharing some basic information about it, but you're doing incredible work here in Tampico, in Verona, and in other places, and in Peru. You're working together collaboratively on the program. So I'm thrilled to tell you, all of you, a little bit more about the program in general, and then also work that we're doing in the United States. Kate Lorig, who is the creator of the program, was supposed to be here, and she sends her regrets. You have to put up with me instead, so I apologize for that. But I do want you to know that when we got here on Monday, I was excited to see that the logo for Tampico is, I'm going to try to say this right, the Ibis. And I come from Maryland, USA, and we have the crab as our symbol. So I feel like we're sister states. So again, as I said, my apologies for not being able to speak in Spanish. I want to tell you a little bit, though, about my history. I began work in this program in 2003 in New Jersey, and we had a very diverse population there. So we offered the program in Spanish, we offered it in Mandarin Chinese, we offered it in Haitian Creole, we offered it in Tagalog, Filipino, we offered it in Korean, and so we had many cultures, many people learning this program. In fact, the program is available worldwide in more than 29 languages, and it is embedded in the healthcare systems of many countries, Canada, England, England, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, Norway, many places routinely have this program available. And for me, what's so exciting about your Congress is that even though it focuses on chronic disease, as the opening speaker, I'm talking to you about the importance of the patient. Now, when they come to the clinic or come to the hospital, they're patients. But the rest of the time, all of us, patients are not our people. And the program I'm talking about is the program that is really to help the people in their everyday lives. So I look forward later in the program to discussing with you. I hope you'll have questions and you'll save them for after the opening ceremony. And I want to just quickly share with you the objectives. We're going to talk about some strategies to help people, patients, manage their chronic conditions. And we're going to talk about why this program, the Stanford University program, is so very effective, and talk about various places to implement the program. Here, Dr. Isabel and all of the folks who are trained in the program are working in the health clinics and doing the program right there at the health clinic. Where we do the programs generally is in the churches, in places where people meet, coffee shops, other places. So it's a little bit different in America. And we're going to be talking specifically about what we're doing in Maryland. And we have now in Maryland a unique opportunity toward population health, which means that our healthcare system is responsible for the health of everyone. Whether they ever come to the hospital or come to the clinic, we're still responsible for their health. So it's a big change for us. So the program in the United States, the reason that we are so concerned and feel this program is so important is that more and more people are turning 65 every day. In fact, in the United States, 10,000 people a day turn 65. That's started in 2011, and that will go through 2030. So that means we really have to look at things different, because who is it that has most of the chronic conditions? Older adults, right? As we get older, we have more and more of these problems. So even though our population is aging rapidly in the United States, Mexico's population is aging even faster. And according to the UN, Mexico's population will be older than that of the United States by 2045. Mexico is really set to move from a predominantly young population to a much older population in only a couple of generations. So managing healthcare costs in Peru, in Mexico, throughout the world, in the United States is really critical, and it's something that all countries are facing. So the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, is working very actively in this program. You're going to be hearing later from a representative of PAHO, but he's going to be speaking more specifically about the chronic conditions. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the work that's being done with this chronic disease self-management program, the Stanford program. And people, what we really understand and recognize is that people with chronic conditions really have to become actively involved in their own self-care and understand what their role is in managing their health. And since 2015, PAHO has sponsored many workshops training master trainers. You heard Dr. Isabel talking about master trainers in Buenos Aires, in St. Lucia, the Caribbean, in Santiago, Chile, and another one is scheduled in Peru, or in Lima, Peru, in December. And PAHO works directly with the state government. And we know that that's a challenge to begin to get the ear of government. We have that same problem in the United States. And so it's very difficult to get the support for the program. But PAHO's working hard on that. And there are programs available for people who have HIV/AIDS. And they have 40 trainers now in Latin America, so they're slowly building capacity This is a program where T-trainers train master trainers, train leaders from the community to deliver the program. So the program can be available in many, many places. And also, Puerto Rico is doing some interesting work in self-management and has really identified and recognized the importance of self-management, and they use promotores. We in the United States often call them community health workers, to really assist and provide support for self-management. And the program really is, in Puerto Rico, is providing both training and certification to health professionals, as well as those community leaders, those promotores in the self-management program. So why do these programs work? Well, what we know, in fact, Kate Lorig, who developed the program, has arthritis, and when she was, back in the 1990s, dealing with her own problems, she really recognized the importance of being involved in her own self-care. So she developed the program initially for arthritis, and then began to understand that regardless, even though each chronic disease is quite different, that many of the things that we have to deal with daily, because we have a chronic condition which won't go away, are the same. So then she began with a chronic disease self-management program. So the principles really are that anyone with a chronic health condition has similar concerns and problems, and that we have to deal not only with the disease, but with the impact it has on our lives. So that means how we interact with our family, whether or not we're able to do our work, and that people with chronic conditions are much more likely to identify and trust with people who are peers, people who are friends of theirs, people are from their communities, people who represent them. So the program provides skills and is able to increase the self-confidence that can lead to individual behavior change. So the goals of self-management are to increase, as I said, the confidence in that individual's ability to manage or co-manage their condition. They become an active participant in their own health. You know, for many years in the United States, we would go to the doctor and the doctor would write us a prescription or fix whatever it was, a broken bone or something, and that was sort of it. We were all finished with it. We didn't realize that with a chronic condition, we have to every day do things to make our health better. So patients have to be active participants and engaged with their healthcare team, and they need to be able to gain the confidence, the self-esteem that they can actually perform the tasks and focus on improving their health. And this is really behavior changes. We know that improving healthy eating and doing physical activity, taking medications as we're supposed to, are all things that are really important to this. So what goes on in this program? Let's go back a minute. So the program in every country, in every language, is 6 weeks long, 2.5 hours. The program is open to anyone who's 18 years of age and older. And equally important, it's open to caregivers. So family members can come and participate in the program. And that makes a lot of sense because you think about the limited amount of time that we're in the doctor's office or the health center. And all the rest of our time, we're living our lives. So having caregivers involved in the program and understanding the importance of healthy behaviors is really an important key. So the programs are very interactive. They're, as I said, 6 weeks, 2.5 hours per session, and always 2 leaders, community health workers, nurses here in Tampico are the ones who are delivering the program. The material is standardized, so if you took the program here, it would be the same if you took it in another country, but maybe in a different language. It's scripted, everybody has to follow the same information, and it's generally free or very low cost to participants. And it's really that participants are becoming active in managing their care. It does not replace any kind of clinical care or treatment. So that's very important. This is really a supplemental assistance program for people. So topics include healthy eating, nutrition, the right amount of exercise, or we call it physical activity because sometimes exercise has a negative connotation. In fact, in the Spanish program, it's dance. It's dance that people are encouraged to do. And so it's about communicating, learning to communicate effectively with your healthcare provider, your doctor, but also better communication with your family and with your friends. It's about learning how to appropriately use medications, and then many techniques to deal with things like pain, with fatigue, frustration, and stress. And key to the program is decision-making, problem solving, and action planning and goal setting. And by that, what we talk about is an action plan is something that people set every single week. It's something they want to do, not something they have to do. So not that your doctor told you you have to do something, but you pick something that you want to do. So it might be clean a closet, it might be visit a friend, it could be anything. But you need to be able to set the steps you'll take for the next week in order to be able to accomplish that plan, right? So you have to identify exactly what you're going to do. It has to be something we can see. For example, if you said you were going to lose weight, that's hard to see. But we could say, well, I'm going to skip snacks, or I'm going to have more vegetables than carbohydrates, or tacos or tostados. So it could be something like that. And then you would say how many days of the week you were going to do that. Well, I'm going to do that Monday and Wednesday, and I'm going to do it at lunchtime. Right, so you would pick exactly what you want to do, and then we ask people, how confident are they? How sure are they that they can accomplish that action plan in this next week? And they tell us, you know, well, I'm very, very confident. I'm 70% sure, 80% sure I can get this done. If they say something less than 70%, we work with them to make it a more attainable goal. And then as we work with them, the first week, the leaders call everybody to see how they're doing with their action plans. And after that, people in the workshop together become buddies and check up on each other to do their action plans. So each week they do an action plan, which is a really important piece around setting a goal and accomplishing it. So there are many of these programs, and they're delivered in several different ways. And the programs are widely available in Spanish, which is so exciting because you have many opportunities to reach specific populations. So it's a small group that meets, generally 10 to 12 to 15 people who are meeting for those 6 weeks. The chronic disease program, Tomando Control de la Salud, the program in diabetes, Programa de Manejo Personal de la Diabetes, and forgive me, I'm sure I can't even begin to pronounce the Spanish cancer program. And then there is one also for chronic pain. So this would be good for people with arthritis and others. There is an online program, so if people who may not be able to attend a class but have a computer could take the program online. Better Choices, Better Health. And there is one that can be mailed to people so that they could do it on their own. There's a toolkit in Spanish and also the Tomando Control. So let's talk a little bit about the Tomando Control de la Salud. The Spanish version it was designed, it's very similar to the English version, but it really was developed to be culturally appropriate. It has much more energy to it, a little more freedom, but the key components are the same. It's around the problem solving, around how to make decisions, and around that action planning that I was talking about, action planning and goal setting. So the diabetes program was first developed in Spanish before we had an English version. And to develop the program, there were focus groups with people to talk about diabetes. It included both the individuals with diabetes and their family members, and we really looked to find out what they thought caused their diabetes, how it affected their lives, what their major problems were, and what might be able to help them better manage their control. And the program really, we recognized that it was really helpful, that people needed to understand the importance of food and healthy eating and exercise, and how those two things can do a great deal to control blood sugar levels, like glucose. They were confused about what they could eat, how much they could eat, how to prepare meals, how to deal with the temptation of favorite foods. They wanted to know more about how to get started with exercise or physical activity and when and how to do it. And they wanted to know how to deal with a lot of their symptoms, emotional changes, family relationships, things about healthcare and resources, things like monitoring and strips, and how to communicate with their providers. And certainly those same concerns are true of people in every country and every language. And so the program, even though it was developed first in Spanish, is very similar in English as well. So the experts who developed the program really talked and gained consensus around things. And the key concepts were eating a variety of food at regular meals, frequently throughout the day, making sure to eat breakfast, and watching portion size. It was key, and that it was really important to have 2 portions of vegetables and fruit and 2 portions of starches, carbohydrates, tortillas, and 1 portion of protein at each meal. And that most importantly, you don't have to give up a food. If there's a favorite food you like, you can have that. Just work it into the daily diet and make sure that you allow for it. Okay? And then the next program, yeah, here we go. The Cancer Thriving Surviving Program is quite new for Stanford. We were only trained in it in Maryland a little bit more than a year ago. And it's an incredibly powerful program. It really has topics around dealing with the frustration, the fatigue, the pain, isolation, poor sleep, and living with uncertainty in cancer. It talks about the right kind of exercise for maintaining flexibility and regaining some strength and endurance. It talks a lot about alternative treatments, complementary therapies. Again, that communication skill is really an important component, and there still are many exercises and sessions on nutrition, and certainly on things like setting important priorities and about relationships. So I have a Cancer Thriving and Surviving story for you. And after I was trained as a master trainer in this program, we taught a community workshop. And the program is for people who, they could be in treatment, they could be newly diagnosed, they could be in recovery. And in this particular workshop, we did have all of those different levels of cancer. There was a woman who had been a cancer survivor for 20 years. There were a couple of people who were recently diagnosed and some who actually were being in treatment just then. And one of the first things in every one of the programs, chronic disease, cancer, diabetes, and pain, is you come to the first session, and everybody is encouraged to share their first name and their chronic condition and the problems that it causes you. So think about it. How often when we see somebody do we say, "How are you?" And what we expect for an answer is, "I'm fine, I'm okay," right? We don't expect somebody to say, "Well, you know, I have cancer and here are the problems." So it is so empowering for people to be able to express their concerns and what their problems are. that's their choice. They may say they don't want to share right then, that's okay, but once somebody shares, it's very powerful. And when I was in this workshop, there were two cancer survivors there whose partners were with them. And as we went around to share this, you know, so the caregiver, instead of saying what his problems are with the condition, it's the problems his partner's, his wife's cancer causes him. And the gentleman literally started to cry because he is so worried and so afraid that her cancer will come back. And that's a level of sharing happens all of the time in these programs, but particularly in the cancer program, because there's such concern about recurrence. So a very powerful program. And I know that the work being done in Peru is focusing on cancer. So it's exciting work and can make a real difference in the quality of people's lives. And I have another story for you. I've known Walter since 2010, and he loves to tell his story. You know, he was undiagnosed with hypertension, high blood pressure, and he had a hemorrhagic stroke. And so he shares the story that he was what we would call a junk food junkie, 3 to 4 gigantus sodas a day, and then he would have candy bars and fried food for lunch. He didn't ever exercise, he was much overweight, but he took the workshop because his wife told him to. And then he learned really the importance of healthy eating and exercise. And since that time, he became a leader, and he is actively teaching these programs throughout Texas for several years now. So a great story, and those stories, actually tomorrow morning, Dr. Isabel has invited some of the participants from one of the health clinics here in Tampico to come to share their stories with you. So I know you'll find that very interesting and very empowering. So I just wanted to share, these are, you know, in the United States now, we are really focused on the importance of outcomes. We have to be able to demonstrate that these programs make a difference. They make a difference in improving people's lives and in the cost of care. So this is a replication of the initial 1990s research, but this was done in 2012 across 17 of the United States, about 2,000 participants. And you can see that there was improvement in that ability to communicate with their healthcare provider, their doctor, their compliance to their medications improved, their health literacy improved, their self-assessed health, how they rated their own health improved. Their depression was lowered, their quality of life, as I said, improved, and that they had fewer unhealthy physical and mental health days. And in fact, that there were fewer visits to the emergency room. So these are important measures for us in the United States, and I think similar kinds of outcomes will be important here, and I know that the university is collecting information on those. And in the United States, what we found was that there was a reduced number of hospitalizations and emergency room visits, and that even though there is a cost to the program, a cost to training and materials and so on, that there was a net benefit per person for the program. So key information for us in the States, and as I said, likely for you as well. So I wanted to share just some of the information, and Kate Lord, the creator of the program, would let you know that these figures are specific only to a group that received federal funding, that there are more than twice as many people probably who have been reached with these programs, but they didn't have to report back to the federal government. And the focus here in the United States, as I said, is primarily on older adults. So again, our government at age 65 pays for health care for older adults. So that's the focus here. And so this is really the number of folks since we received major funding in 2010 to the present time. You can see nearly 300,000 people through the programs. What we know that's important with all of these programs is that for there to be an ongoing long-term benefit, people have to participate for at least 4 sessions. And so that we definitely do, we make sure of that. So you can see the race, ethnicity, diverse, not as many Hispanic, Latino folks, but we're making real efforts to improve our reach to them. And then you can see that the top chronic conditions, again, hypertension, arthritis, diabetes, and depression. Certainly, if you have multiple chronic conditions, you may be very likely to have depression as well. So we concentrate on reaching hard-to-reach folks in Maryland, where I work, and so we do use outreach workers, promotores who are members of the community. The programs work best when it's people who are just like them delivering the program to them. That level of trust, again, is important. And word seems to spread best by word of mouth. Somebody who's gone to the program, it's very effective. And as I said, we do our programs in public housing complexes, in churches. You have to be really flexible with the workshop schedule. And again, our programs in the United States are primarily in the community. And we just did in Maryland our first training of Spanish-speaking leaders in July, and we're excited they're offering all of their programs right now in the churches. So to embed these programs in healthcare delivery, that's really what we're being charged to do now in America. And we work hard to document the actual improvement in the participants' self-management skills. We assess their risk first. I know that certainly that's done here because you're working in the clinics, but we do it by taking blood pressures and doing other things in the community. And we have aligned a lot of the quality measures. Again, our physicians have to adhere to a number of quality measures to be reimbursed to get their ongoing funding. And so the outcomes that we measure in the program are aligned with measures that they have to meet. And then we really work to link clinical outcomes, so reducing blood pressure, reducing A1C and blood glucose levels. And then we continue to look and work toward demonstrating that we really can reduce overall healthcare costs. So just sharing with you a few quotes from some of our participants. Again, the effect, the importance of these programs, bringing about an opportunity for people to learn skills, to be able to practice them, and to make a real difference in their own health. So I thank you very much for this chance to speak with you. I look forward to your questions later in the day. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos cumplidamente a la profesora Lachenmayr su presentación e invitamos a la maestra Ana María Rivera Peña, secretaria administrativa de nuestra facultad, a hacer entrega de un reconocimiento y un presente a nuestra ponente de primera hora de la mañana. Nos preparamos para nuestra ceremonia de apertura. Les rogamos no abandonar sus localidades. En breve estaremos iniciando nuestra ceremonia de apertura de nuestro Congreso.